After my last video, I decided that I should explain at least two other methods of constitutional interpretation, because that's one of the first things that you're going to learn in your constitutional law course. You see, in countries like Australia, with rigid constitutions, that is, constitutions that are not amenable just by parliamentary whim or just like any other ordinary legislation, constitutional interpretation is really important. Much of society's structure and legal system will depend on the meaning of the constitutional provisions. So, what are the methods of constitutional interpretation? And what methods have been used by the High Court of Australia? Hello everyone, my name is Renato Costa. This channel is called Aussie Law, and our motto is short videos, long-term knowledge, because we believe that it is good to have decomplicated, objective videos explaining the fundamental principles and concepts of Australian law. Our theme for the day is constitutional interpretation. If you came to this video before watching the other video that I did about structuralism, the one that's appearing on the card above me, then I recommend you to go there and watch that video first. If not, you have to promise me that straight after this one, you're gonna go and watch that one as well. I said in that video that there are some methods that the High Court of Australia uses to interpret the Australian Constitution. These methods include the text, the structure, the history, ethics, prudence, and comparisons with other constitutions. This list is actually taken from this book right here. There's a link to it in the description of the video. And look, every time I reference a book, it doesn't mean that I get paid for it or anything like that. It's just because these are the books that I actually use to prepare for these classes, and they are the books that I like reading. So I just recommend them because they are a good read, and I think they are important if you want to understand a bit more. I won't go over the three last methods of constitutional interpretation that I cited before. And in the last video, we did talk about structuralism. So in this video, I'll be focusing only on the textual and the historical interpretation. Let's start with the textual method of interpreting the Constitution. As the name says, the textual interpretation focuses on the words and the phrases used in the Constitution. So instead of analyzing the Constitution as a whole, like the Structuralist approach, the textual or the literal approach will look at the words, the specific meaning of each phrase used in the Constitution. The idea is to apply the words according to their ordinary meaning and usage. Think about it. If we elect representatives to go to Parliament and debate and discuss and formulate legislation, we expect them to know what they mean. We expect them to choose the right words to convey exactly what they want to convey. Of course, that doesn't happen as often as we would like. But still, there is a sense in which the words and the phrases chosen by the legislator convey what they really want to say. So textualism actually places a lot of confidence in those legislators, because its primary focus is on the words and phrases used by the legislator to interpret the Constitution. Literalism is the method of constitutional interpretation that focuses on the actual words used in the Constitution. Another way of interpreting the Constitution is through a historical analysis. The historical method of constitutional interpretation seeks to understand the Constitution according to what was intended or generally understood to be the meaning of that provision at the time of its enactment. It's like going back to 1901 and trying to figure out what the framers of the Constitution actually meant to say. It's like understanding the historical context so we can understand the meaning of a constitutional provision. In this historical method, we have sort of like two strands of constitutional interpretation. One is called the Intentionalists and the other one the Originalists. Intentionalism seeks to find the intention of the legislator while writing the Constitution. So it gives high regard to the people that actually wrote the Constitution. It aims at finding out what the legislation wanted to say at that time when they were writing the Constitution. Originalism on the other hand, is more extrinsic. It doesn't focus on the person that was writing, but rather on the interpretation, the understanding of the Constitution at that time. Originalism tries to find out how the Constitution was understood at the time that it was enacted. Do you see the difference? Here, we're trying to understand how the Constitution was applied, how its provisions were lived out. It's not about the personal intent of the legislator, but how the Constitution externally was interpreted at the time that it was enacted. So let's sum this up. The literal or textual method interprets the Constitution according to the meaning of the words, the phrases, the paragraphs that were used in the Constitution. The historical method values the meaning of constitutional provisions according to the time that the Constitution was enacted. And the historical method of interpreting the Constitution can be divided into two groups: intentionalists and originalists. Intentionalists try to convey the meaning of a constitutional text according to the intention of the framers of the Constitution, whereas originalists try to convey the meaning of constitutional text according to the way in which the Constitution was applied and understood at the time of its enactment. We have arrived at the end of our video. Thanks for sticking around. I hope you learned at least 2 other ways in which the Australian Constitution can be interpreted. If you liked it, hit that button down there and subscribe to our channel. And I hope to see you in our next encounter. Ciao!